Well, hey there, everyone. I am Reverend Melissa Kime-Hall, and I'm one of the pastors at Oak Grove, and I am so glad to welcome you today to the Oak Grove podcast. In this podcast season, we're talking about the wisdom of our older adults. And so we're going to talk with some of those older adults in our community. And today we're going to talk with our oldest member of the Oak Grove congregation, Miss Hassie Padgett. Did you know you were the oldest member?
No.
Yes, you are the oldest member. And Hassie is so much fun, and she is full of just sage advice and stories that you're going to want to hear. So welcome to the podcast, Hassie. We are glad you're here. And today we're going to talk a lot about just your life and your experiences in worship and different things that you've seen throughout your 101 years. But first, we want you to tell us just a little bit about how you got to be here at Oak Grove.
Well, when we was looking for a church after my second marriage, he belonged to the church over in off of Ponce de Leon, over in that section. And I belonged to a church down in Mara. So we wanted to get a church that was convenient to where we were living.
Right.
We couldn't decide whether to live up here or live in Mara or go to the lake.
Options.
So, most of our friends were up in this section.
Mm-hmm.
So we was in the Elks. So most of the friends were Elks brothers or sisters. So we decided to come to Oak Grove. But we did visit about 4 churches before we joined Oak Grove.
Very good. Well, I love that. I love, that y'all, you visited around to make sure it was a good fit for you and
yes,
for your family.
Because we wanted to have friends in the church, not just join. So we made a good friend.
Right.
Virginia Mayfield and Harold, which lived just around the corner from me. So we could ride together, we could go to lunch together, we could do things together.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you had community right from the very beginning. So I want to ask you a little bit because, you've been here in this community for a long time, but you are 101. So that means you've lived really a long, rich life, and you've seen a lot of what are historically significant moments in real time. You were present for them. I know your husband was part of the military, and that's what kind of brought you to the Atlanta area. So can you share with us about some of your connections to historically significant moments that you've experienced throughout your lifetime?
Well, when we came to Atlanta, I was 20. I married when I was 19, and I married in May before I got 20 in June.
Okay.
I wanted to be So when he was at a balloon camp in Paris, Tennessee.
Okay.
And he was an MP, and he was on a bus that traveled from the city, the town, to the camp. And I happened to be on there one night. And I told this girl that I was riding with, we was talking, I said, "You see that guy? I'm going to marry him." And she said, "Okay." So we rode into town, and so the next couple of days, I rode the bus, and he was on there again. So when we was getting off, he said, "If you will ride back to the camp with me and come back, I'll walk you home." He didn't have a car.
Right.
So I said, "Okay." So we went back, and so he walked me home, and he says, "How about a date tomorrow night?" I said, "Okay." So he called up the next day. He says, I can't make it. Said, can we do it the next night? I said, sure. So could see him. So the third day, he called up and said, I can't make it. And I said, okay. And so I said, don't call me anymore. So he said, okay. So the next day he called and said, will you come and let me go? We'll go to the movies. And I said, okay. We got home and he says, I got a question. I said, okay. He said, will you marry me?
Wow.
I said, marry you? I said, you'll have to ask my daddy. So he says, okay. So he asked my daddy, and my daddy said, yeah. So she's a handful. So anyway, we went together then a year, and we got married in the Methodist church.
Okay. Yep.
And when we came out, the MPs were there and they took him away. They said, we're arresting him. And I started crying, of course.
You're right.
And then about 15 minutes later, they brought him back.
So tell me, so you were born in 1924, right?
Uh-huh.
And so Calvin Coolidge was president. So that means that, I was looking it up the other day. I was like, that's like 13 presidencies. So you've seen the Great Depression. You've seen World War II.
The Depression was horrible. I was a little girl, and we lived in a 2-story house at that time, and my daddy got one run a month, and that paid for the electricity. We didn't have a phone, and it paid for the food. We lived in town, and I had 2 uncles that lived with us, and anyone that worked had to live in town. So I've always had somebody living with us.
Right.
And I had an older brother who was killed in World War II.
Okay.
He was a pilot, but he wasn't piloting the plane that went down.
Right.
They were carrying 16 men on the plane to another camp, and the plane, something happened to the plane.
Something happened. Huh.
And my daddy was he was just devastated by it.
Yeah.
So my uncle that lived with us went to Lubbock, Texas to identify him. So I haven't had a sister or a brother since I was 16.
Oh, wow. That must have been really hard.
Yeah. So it was, he wasn't married.
Right.
And the girl that he went with has never married. And I'm sure she's passed on by now.
Right, right.
But she got me a job in a shirt factory where she worked when I was still in high school.
Oh, wow. So y'all got to spend time together. That's really, really neat. I love that. So you've told us like these fascinating stories about just history and some of your connections with it. But let's talk a little bit about your personal life and some of the things that you've done in your life. I know you shared with Joseph the other day that you had a photography business, and we know you've been a caterer.
Oh, God.
You worked for the Southern Company. So tell us some of those things.
All right. I worked for a Stein printing company. They used to be, I worked there, and back then they had people to come in every month and audit the books.
Right.
And this auditor came in one day, and he said, how much do you make? And I told him how much I made. And he says, I'm going to get you a good job. I said, okay. And so in the next month, I had doubled my salary.
Wow.
I went to work for a truck line.
Okay.
And I stayed with them till I retired, and I draw a picture from them now.
Okay.
40-some years I've been drawing a picture from the Teamsters.
Wow. So that was all here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you were telling a story earlier about catering. Tell me about that.
All right. So then, when my husband came back from California, when he was discharged, he got a job with the city investigating wrecks.
Okay.
Okay. You have to make pictures with the wrecks.
Right.
So we went into the photography business. So from there, he was in the Masons.
Okay. Yeah.
And they have dinners and they want their installation photographed. So we started that. Then they needed somebody to fix their dinners. So we went into that. So we was catering and making pictures at different places.
Right.
Well, from there, I was in the Eastern Star.
Yeah.
And they needed a shop where they could put dresses. I said, I could do that. So I had a dress shop.
Oh, wow.
I had a dress shop. I'd get group dresses.
Right.
And I stayed in the business until my first husband passed away. Three years in my life I cannot remember. It's sad, but it is true. The first thing was my son went in business in the glass business.
Right.
Well, his daddy died the first year he was in business. He had the heart.
Right.
Then I got breast cancer and had to have my both breasts removed. Then my mother passed away.
Oh, what a hard time.
That was 3 years that are just totally, I just can't remember any of it because that's when I met Jess, and he would take me to my treatments. He would get off from work to do whatever I needed done.
Right.
And he was just there for me.
Right.
So after that, I knew I was going to marry him.
Oh.
He did anything I asked him to do.
Right.
And so that was how it come to be. And his picture's up on the wall. He was a good-looking man and a good person.
I love that. So he really showed up for you in some of the most difficult moments of your life.
But I had that dress shop. I had to keep it open. And my daddy came. I couldn't lose my job with a truck line.
Right.
So my daddy came after my mother passed away and kept it open for me.
Oh, wow.
And I was all he had, and he was all I had. But the awful part of that was he went home, and it took me 3 years to get rid of my dress shop.
Right.
I would just have it open like when I would come home from work or something like that. But he called me and said, I have lung cancer. And he was a big person in the church there.
Right.
And of course, I was devastated over it. And so I said, don't worry, I can retire and Jess can retire. So we retired and went up there to live.
Right. Oh, wow.
To be with him. He said, please don't take me to Atlanta because I won't know anybody.
Right.
And says, you do know people here.
Right.
So we went up to Paris to live. We was there about 6 or 8 months, and I had taken him to Memphis and Nashville and made sure, and all of them said, yeah. So this particular day, the doctor called me into the office, and I knew he was just going to tell me some bad news. He says, I've got something to tell you. And I said, okay. He says, your daddy don't have lung cancer. I said, what? He says, your daddy does not have lung cancer. Said he worked for the railroad, and it's just sudden. And he says, he's fine. And I said, thank you. And he said, now send your daddy in. He sent my daddy in, and my daddy came out. He says, okay, let's go home. He got in the car, and he says, now I want you to do something. Get your stuff and go home and let me get on with my life, and you get on with your life. So I came home, and then we just, from there, everything, he would come, and then my grandson got married, and my life just went on and on.
Right, right. And so I imagine that, like, throughout, I mean, you've talked about some really difficult times as well as, like, some really kind of big celebration type of events, that your faith was really important in all of that.
My daddy and I were really close.
Right. I can imagine. I can imagine.
So, but the awful part of that was when he did pass away, guess where I was? In New Jersey, snowbound. And we couldn't get out. The private plane got out before the regular planes
Right.
did. And I got back, and it had snowed in Paris.
Right.
And we couldn't even go to the cemetery. It was so much snow.
Right.
So we had to wait a couple of days.
Right.
And then we had the service.
I know that you've been a part of the Oak Grove United Methodist Church now for like over 50 years. I know that you've got some really specific spiritual practices and disciplines that you follow every day, and that the church has really been a big part of your life where you've volunteered.
When I joined Oak Grove, I wanted to know the members of Oak Grove and how it worked and what all they did for other people and what was going on in the church.
Right.
So I just went up there and I said, I want to volunteer on this front desk and no pay, just I'll be here on time. And because I'm an early person.
Right.
And so they said, okay. So I volunteered 3 years.
Okay.
I learned everybody in the church, what was going on, who was a good leader.
Right.
Who were leaders. You can tell whether they're leaders or not.
Right, exactly.
Then I was in a Sunday school class.
Okay.
The friendship class.
The friendship class.
Then we joined another class, the fellowship class.
Okay.
And then we moved on down to the other end, and now it's a seeker's faith class.
Okay. Okay. So that's kind of like the transition of those classes.
And the people in our class, we had luncheons, and we was a community.
Right.
Right there. And you knew everybody. You knew if they was having money problems or you knew if they was sick, and you helped them.
Right.
And that's the way you get to know the people, is by when they need help, give it. And if you can't give it, get somebody else to
find someone to help. That's right.
And then I had 16 bridge clubs.
Tell us a little bit more about these bridge clubs.
Okay. Duplicate bridge, a lot of people don't want to play.
Right.
Some just want to play party bridge, which is fine. Well, I started a group of duplicates for those that wanted to play duplicate. Then those that wanted to play party bridge, I had those. I had a book that I put all their names that would play in that day. We would play 4 or 5 days a week, every week.
Right.
For a month. And some of them were church members, and then some of them were just regulars, and we'd tell them about the church.
Right. Okay. So you created like community through Sunday school and through bridge clubs, and that kind of paints the picture of how, like, we always say Oak Grove is not just a church, but it's a church for the neighborhood. And so you were inviting people from outside the church to come be a part of these bridge clubs.
There's so many people, when they get older, kind of drop out of everything. They retire and they don't have anything to do.
Right.
And we played at the church in the front, and then we got so big we played kind of in the back in the dining area.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
I met a lot of people.
I love that. And I think that's so important, is like, you know, that the church is not just somewhere we go on Sunday, but it's a place that's kind of central to our lives and the rhythms of our lives. But I know that worship has also been really important to you. Like, you were, I hear, going to worship even well into your 90s, making liturgical mask for people.
I would drive to the church, and that first parking place that is handicapped, that's where my car always was. Then I would go into the church. About halfway down, there's a pillar.
Right.
And I sat one row back.
Okay.
I sat there for years and years and years. At 8:30, I'm a morning person.
Yeah, you're a morning person.
So I would go to church and then we'd go to Sunday school, and then we'd go to lunch.
Right.
A group of us would get together and go to lunch.
Go to lunch. Do you have any favorite hymns, like, that are meaningful to you?
Let's see. I like Christmas songs.
Like Christmas songs. Christmas is a great time. This is some of the best music for the church, too, isn't it?
Yeah. I used to sing in the choir in Paris till I left Paris.
Okay.
But I never did get in I had so much going on, I couldn't get in
You're too busy to be in the choir.
Who is the minister now of the music department?
John Cowden.
He must be a great...
He is fantastic.
Well, this lady that I know said there's no one like him.
Yeah.
Said he was just really good.
John is definitely what I call good people. Well, Hassie, what advice or wisdom do you have for the people at Oak Grove?
I mean, my day starts off with prayer.
Right. I
get up and I fix me oatmeal and coffee and take my medicine. And I pray every night for my family.
Mm-hmm. You really talk a lot about, like, prioritizing your relationship with God and making space in your day-to-day living.
He helped me through a lot of things that I couldn't have made it without him.
Right. You talked a lot about, you said that prayer you pray for in the evenings for your grandchildren.
Because children in their young days form their habits, form their wants and diswants, and
right.
That's when they're molded.
Do you think that that it's important, because you say children, they develop their habits, children develop their habits young in life. You think it's important that as parents that children see their parents modeling those things?
I tell you, so my oldest grandson runs the business now. He didn't go to church till something in his life happened.
Right.
And now he's a big worker in his church down in Fayetteville.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's really involved, but he still, he does his business, but he has time for all of this.
Right. Right.
He makes the time for it.
Prioritizes being present and in community in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And he probably saw how important the church was to you over the years. So,
yes. When I go down there, they carry me to that church.
To that church. Yeah. I love that. And you get to be in worship with them. How special is that?
Yeah. The 3 girls, one of them had 4 children. One of them was killed in a car accident. He hit a pole. One was killed coming out of a 7-Eleven. Somebody shot him from a car.
I imagine that with those different tragedies in your life, that faith has been a big part of sustaining you through all the things that you've experienced.
I mean, we've had tragedy, but we've handled it and got through it with the help of the Lord. I have a routine. Now,
okay.
I get up in the morning. It's around 7, brush my teeth and wash my face, and I dress like I'm going to work.
Right.
I don't care. I don't care. I wear a suit every day. I go to work.
Right.
This is the day I have to work. So I pray. And
that's a good way to start that's a good way to start out your day. I love that you kind of start the day and end the day just kind of spending time with God and connecting.
And I get up early enough that I can do it.
Yeah. That's sometimes, I think, the biggest challenge for people is getting up early enough to make that space. And I think that's just the beauty of knowing that we have a God that loves us so much, is that
I just wonder why he wants me here.
Right.
I wonder that, but I know he's got a reason.
I think it's because you have you're an inspiration to so many people. He's got a
purpose for me to be here. The doctor, the last time we was there, he says, I want you to come on your birthday. And I said, well, usually the family gets together.
Right.
And he says, I want you in here on June the 24th. Mine is June the 22nd. And so he says, you make your appointment. I said, Jessica, go out there and make the appointment. So she made it, and they said 11 o'clock.
Okay.
So on June the 24th, at 11 o'clock, I started in his office. And there was a big banner, Happy Birthday. I opened up my coat, and there was this banner on me, 101. And they just applauded. And so he said, come on back here. So I went back there. And then when we started out, they had our lunch.
Oh, wow.
So we had lunch and came home. And then that night, the family went out. And we went to a place where you could get ice cream and cake beside your dinner.
Right.
So we had nobody had to go to any trouble.
Right. I love that. This shows what an inspiration you are to people, and how I think, part of your purpose is that you are here able to share so much life experience and be evidence that, like, God can carry you through anything in life. There's nothing that we face that God can't carry us through. In thinking about that, what is some of just the wisdom that you would share with the Oak Grove community about living their day-to-day lives and, living such
Do something good for somebody every day.
Do something good for somebody every day. Or as we sometimes say at the church from one of our other members, go do good.
I love the church. I haven't stopped giving to the church.
Right.
And you need to set up aside a certain amount every month to give to the church, whether you go or not, because there's so many things that the church needs that without your help, it can't do.
Right. Well, Hassie, you've been a delight to talk to today. And we are so grateful for you being just willing to be a part of the podcast. And, you know, it's not often that we get a person who is 101 to sit behind one of these podcast microphones and talk with us. And so we're just grateful for just you sharing part of your day with us. We're happy to celebrate your 101st birthday. We can't wait to celebrate 102 next year. And we're just glad that you've been able to be with us today. Y'all, I'm so glad that you've been able to be a part of this conversation today with Hassie and to just hear about her story and her advice and wisdom after, living for 101 years. And we hope you'll join us again next week. And in the meantime, have a great week. And remember to say your prayers, like Miss Hassie said. Talk to you later. Bye.